$16.5 trillion, which means $165,000 for you. What do these numbers represent? That's a good question and exactly what I want to focus on right here in the video. So let's get right into it. All right, now in this video, I do want to discuss some details of a new report that was just released showing the major problems that the American people are now facing and what this means for the United States as a whole as we are dealing with some massive numbers. Let's get into it and discuss what's going on. However, really fast before we do, thank you so much for joining me. If you're new here or if you haven't done so yet, please make sure to subscribe by hitting the button right down below the video, as it's totally free to do so. And because I am your one and only daily advocate, I'm here for you right by your side each and every day, watching all this new information hitting the wire, doing the research and breaking it all down into these short videos so you can stay updated with what's actually going on as things are changing very rapidly. So again, thanks so much for joining me. Please subscribe down below if you haven't done so yet. And also remember, I am here for you in any way that I possibly can be. That's my dedication. That's my commitment. And as always, that is my promise to you and everybody right here in the community. All right, thanks again. Let's get into it and talk about these massive numbers, the $16.5 trillion and what it means, what the $165,000 for you, for me, and for everybody else right here in the United States. These are some huge numbers, almost like can't even comprehend what these numbers actually mean because they're so big. However, I do want to break this down because this is a major problem that the American people are now facing. And again, this is a major problem for the country as a whole. Let me break these numbers down for you because this report was just released and this is showing a huge problem that we're all facing right now. All right, so here's what it comes down to. This new report that was released showed that collectively as a whole, the American consumer, as in all of the consumers, the American people collectively have $16.5 trillion in debt. Now, this is across many different debt instruments, but I do want to talk about the details and exactly break this down as far as what this report showed. Now, here's what it also shows, that we, again, the American people, the American consumers, we have increased our debt by 7.65% just in the last 12 months. That's a huge increase. Now remember, 7.65% collectively as a whole is not that much, right? However, when we're talking about $16.5 trillion, a 7.65% increase is a huge increase in debt, right? That's a lot. Now let me tell you this much. Now, taking the $16.5 trillion and dividing it out on average per household in the United States, now we're talking literally every single household, whether it's somebody living in a house, an apartment, doesn't matter what it is, every single household, right? The average, it all averages out to $165,000 per household. So that's why I said earlier, $165,000 for you, for me, and literally for everybody else. So collectively across the entire United States, every single household on average has $165,000 in debt. Now, let me break this down a little bit further so we can see where these numbers are actually coming from. So here's what it shows. This is what the report shows. Now, obviously, I know that this does not apply to every single person, but this is the average across the entire United States and across all households. These are the averages, okay? So if we were to just look at the numbers, because here's the thing, not every household has a mortgage, not every household has a car payment, not every household has credit card debt, but these are the averages. The average household has a $222,000 mortgage. The average household has $17,000 in credit card debt. And the average household has $29,000 in an auto loan. At the same time, the average household has $58,000 in federal student loans. It's a lot of money, right? Now again, these are the averages, but remember, not every household has all of these debts. That's why I said earlier, the average household collectively has $165,000 in debt. So if you take out all the households that maybe don't have a mortgage, that don't have an auto loan, that don't have credit card debts, that don't have a student loan, and if we spread this all out across the whole board like, spreading butter on a piece of bread, right? The bread representing the entire country and the butter or the peanut butter or whatever you want to spread onto it. It's kind of like the debt going across everything, right? Well, that's what it comes down to. That is a ton of debt right now. Now, here's the thing. Why? We can probably ask ourselves, why did we collect so much debt over the last 12 months? Why did this increase by 7.65% just in the last 12 months? Well, it's not that hard to figure out. It's because of all the massive inflation. This is also what the report showed. So the report also went on to show that this debt is increasing so rapidly right now across the United States and across consumers because there's a couple different things that are happening. Prices are rising very rapidly, as we all know, obviously. Prices have been rising very rapidly for about a year and a half, maybe even a little bit longer than that. These prices have been rising very rapidly as a result of inflation. At the same time, have your incomes gone up to adjust for that? The simple answer is no. It doesn't matter really what you do for the most part. Nobody's income has gone up to the point where it's actually keeping up with this inflation. So as a result of that, unfortunately, people are taking out more debt, right? So opening up new credit cards, floating more balances on credit cards, opening up an auto loan, whereas somebody maybe, could possibly, maybe finance a little bit of a car and then pay it off quickly, or maybe pay cash for a car. A lot of people can't do that. There's no way the vast majority of people can do that anymore today. Even used cars are up significantly than what they were a year and a half ago. So again, prices on literally everything have gone up. And again, we don't need to talk about the housing market, right? The real estate market has gone up a ton over the last 2.5 years or so. Even though it's come down a little bit here over the last few months, it is nowhere near what it was, call it 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. It's nowhere near where it was then. So prices on everything have gone up significantly. Not to mention, for those people who maybe don't have a mortgage or things like this, rental prices have gone up a ton as well, right? We've talked about rents going up all across the country. That's another thing too as well. So more people are spending more money on the necessities, things like that. Therefore, there's no more money to go around. Incomes do not keep up. Therefore, people are taking on more debt just to cover the necessities. And again, I know we've talked about that a ton here on the channel in previous videos, but that's exactly what this report also laid out. So you can clearly see here, this is a major problem. Well, obviously, inflation is coming down according to what they're telling us. But again, let me ask you this much really quickly. Have you been seeing prices go down in your local area? So when you go out to the stores and you do some shopping, have you seen prices come back down? Not sure where you're located or where the people who give us these reports are actually shopping, but where we're located and where most of you here on the channel are located, I've seen it down below in the comment section. The prices are not coming down, right? So again, they continue to tell us all these reports on inflation saying, oh, prices are coming down so much. Don't worry, we'll be right back down. Prices are coming down. Well, basically what it's doing is every single month that we get the inflation report, what's happening is the back end of the inflation report is falling off, right? So as we move forward a month, the next month in the calendar comes forward and the last month falls off. So as we get a rolling average 12-month perspective or overview on inflation, obviously it looks like inflation is coming down because the higher averages and the higher inflation reports that we saw from say 12 or 13 months ago are falling off the back. So obviously, it's easier to say inflation is coming down when we look at it on a year-over-year perspective, right? When really, is that the case? Not really. It just means that the very big numbers skewing all of this and showing that inflation is very high are just basically falling off. Inflation is still very, very high, right? So when we look at the real numbers out there and we see real prices on the things that we all actually buy and spend money on, prices are still very, very high. So again, I don't want to turn this into a big speech talking about inflation, but again, this is the major problem, right? It's prices and incomes not keeping up with it. So it's kind of like a two-pronged thing here where prices continue to rise, inflation is still very high, and incomes literally have not moved up anywhere near how much prices have actually gone up. So that's where the huge discrepancy comes in. As a result of that, somebody needs to do something to cover the differences right there, right? So let's just say that expenses have gone up to say, let's just call it $2,000 a month, and let's just say that incomes are sitting at $1,800 a month. Well, where's the extra $200 discrepancy come from? Well, we got to float it somewhere. In a lot of cases, that turns into some type of debt, whether it's on a credit card or maybe financing an auto loan, something like this. It doesn't really matter what it is. There's tons of different options, but this is what's going on right now. So this is just another report that hit the wire. I want to bring it to your attention. I always like bringing these reports to your attention so you can see what's actually going on. And this is what they're actually saying right now. That's a lot of debt, and that's a major problem, okay? Now, maybe we could look at this and think, oh, no problem at all. We can just keep borrowing. Yes, true, we can. But at some point, it's not sustainable. And at this point, it's pretty much not sustainable already because most people don't even have the money to cover the basic necessities. The vast majority of the population is spending all their income on a monthly basis plus some. Is that sustainable for a very long period of time? Not really. It can be for a little while, but eventually it's not sustainable, as in we can't keep going into debt on a significant basis every month that we are, right? It just doesn't work for a very long time. For a little while, sure, it can happen for a little while, but eventually it just doesn't work anymore, right? So anyway, this is a major problem that a lot of people are facing right now, and all of this debt will need to be purged at some point, right? When that's going to happen? Well, that's a good question. Anyway, I want to bring this report to your attention so we can all see what is actually going on. As I've said before in other videos, does your local news talk about this stuff? Highly doubt it. Why? Because they just don't talk about this. But again, this is something we all need to pay attention to because it's very important, and at the end of the day, it impacts all of us in a significant way, right? So anyway, I'll keep you posted with any further details that I find out there, but this is just another one that I wanted to show you what's actually going on here, and this is collectively all across the country. So if you feel like, you're struggling right now, your floating balances on credit cards, your incomes aren't keeping up, you are certainly not alone. The vast majority of Americans are in this same situation, okay? There's only a very small percentage of people that are not feeling a huge pinch by this. And if that's the case, they are very, very high income people. And there's a very small percentage of people that fall into that category. So most people are dealing with this right now. Anyway, I'm here for you in any way that I possibly can be. Please make sure to subscribe down below if you haven't done so yet. Share the video with your friends, family, social media, and go back and check out any of the other thousands upon thousands of videos here on the channel. Until next time, enjoy your day, and I'll catch you again later.